Ship chasing back to our Thursday afternoon time slot after last week's change in schedule. And today we are going to look at the sprint contest. We've drafted in one of these previously. This is a contest very similar to Best Ball Mania, except there are no pods in week 15 through 17. It is just the best teams who advance, all of them competing together. So we'll share some of our favorite hammer plays for the fantasy playoffs and dig into it all today on Ship Chasing. I'm Pete, joined by Ben and Pat. Let's do it.
Pat Fryer Helmo.
This is why I'm hot.
Anita Handjob.
Fix your sight.
Jamar Alpha Play Chase.
Are you kidding me? Kadarius Toney?
You can't handle the heat.
It looks like we're finally at this point. You're right.
All right. We are back. Pat Kerrane, Ben Gretch in the throes of best ball summer. How are we doing, guys?
Doing good. How you guys doing?
Good. I just saw this Jaguars tweet. They just tweeted out Trevor Lawrence's baby announcement, and it's the most like
I saw it.
GQ. Like he's not wearing any socks, and with his long hair and everything. I'm just looking at it right now, like, oh man. That's the most I don't know, Southern and quarterback vibe. It's it's working for him.
Yeah, Pat, did did any of you guys consider doing a baby announcement like this when you guys had kids? Let me pull this up here. Here it is. What do we think? I love the
You have to try to look that like not try hard.
That is, I mean, that's in a magazine. Like that's absurd. Like I wouldn't be surprised if like that table was for sale.
Yeah. Did either of you guys do like the gender reveal pomp and circumstance?
No. I mean, I basically didn't have a wedding, so we're not real into the pomp and circumstance over here.
I was a little upset about that because like I'm still waiting on my first like internet friend's wedding. Like I wasn't able to go to Davis's because I had another wedding that day, but I actually feel deprived that you didn't give us kind of like a ship chasing adjacent wedding and reception.
Yeah, well, that was never the plan. So
that was always
at least we got a pizza party.
It was always not going to happen.
Now that you asked that, it's funny that we did it so low key. It did remind me that because my two girls are 4.5 years apart, my oldest was like able to walk and talk by the time that we had the second one. So we did have we had a big box wrapped like a big present for her to open at my mom's with balloons, and then pink balloons came out, and she understood. She was old enough to understand that like this was going to mean whether she had a baby brother or baby sister. She had a baby, baby sister. So that was cool. What we did. Like, in my parents' living room, low key.
Yeah,
just
that's not for the spectacle, right? You didn't put that out there. It was just a nice thing to do for someone else.
You weren't trying to get Instagram likes out of that, Gretch? What
we
were you thinking?
We do have a film somewhere of it. I've seen it before. But like it definitely is not on the internet.
Gretch, how are you doing in your slow drafts? Are you due for another trip here?
I am due for another trip, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to. We just got back from a family trip to Montana, drove through Idaho, and all of Washington, Idaho, and Montana don't allow Underdog. So I didn't get to enter anymore there. I'm running low right now, and then we have a trip to Eastern Washington. The trip to Montana was my side of the family, Eastern Washington, my wife's side of the family here in a little bit. The girls just finished their last day of school a week ago. So in a lot of other places of the country, they've been done a lot longer, but up here in Washington, it's like the latest. It runs super late, and we have to jam in like all our vacations until like August. Dad's not going on vacation, right? So it's got to happen like between end of June and like
they're like, we want to go to Hawaii, Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas. Gretch, that'd be so
Vegas
funny.
Is great in early September.
Those like when they show like availability maps and they have like the stuff grayed out. It'd be so funny if you're like, all right, kids, gather around. We're going to pick our next vacation. Yeah. The orange states are the ones you can pick from.
Right. That's more or less what it is. My parents are from Montana. So we went and visited went to my grandma's house, and it's like,
just trying to move.
Yeah. Yeah. Grandma. That was like when I grew up, we didn't have cable, and I always wanted to go watch the NBA dunk contest as a kid. And so we had to go to grandma's house for me to watch the dunk contest. It was always like my big treat to get to go over there. So you gotta make sacrifices as a kid. Pat, how about you? Less slow draft hell because you got the sidekick on your side?
Yeah, I mean the sidekick's very helpful for slow drafts. But then I entered like 175. So still a lot. Still a lot of drafts.
So fucking many.
Yeah.
People coming to my stream, they're like, "You're the slow draft king." I'm like, dude, I'm doing 40. Have you guys met Pat Corain? Like this guy slow drafting my ass.
That's not because I thought I was doing because I haven't been doing much. I got to like 11 fast draft puppies, and so then my OCD kicked in, and I was like, I'll do 9. I'll get to 20, and I was like, yeah, I'll do 10 more. I'll get to 30. I'll get to 30 total, but I had to get that round number. But even that, I'm like having to check in, and I'm like, I told you guys my normal slow draft plan is I make the alerts. And I just haven't broke to like set up Google Calendar alerts to remind me to make puppy 2 picks yet. I'm just like, I got my ranks in there. If I auto a few of these, like, so fucking be it.
Yeah, there's certain days where I try to just like make like my picks like more regularly because some days like just with work and stuff, I'm like, I will be checking you in 8 more hours and or 7.5 or whatever, and I come back and I make all the picks. But there's some days where I'm like, maybe if I just like pick all the time today, these drafts will be over.
I get the same way. And then you're like,
it didn't work. It didn't work.
But what sucks is when you come back to it in 7.5 hours and you've enjoyed the time off from drafting that day, you're doing whatever, like I'll be doing stuff with the kids, and I come back and I'm like, I have to make 20 fucking picks right now and I don't want to.
Or like on stream for 6 hours.
Sounds like a dream, Gretch. It sounds like 20 picks. It's nothing.
Whatever, yeah, more. But like right before bed, like I'm super tired. I want to get, I'm trying to get good sleep. It's the off season. It's like, man, I got to fucking pound 20 picks out right now. I mean, yeah, for you, it's a lot more than that. But
you know what? That's a good point, Ben, because I've had both of those feelings where sometimes you're so jazzed up to like go make those picks of like, it feels like this little dopamine reward. I got these 5 picks to go make. I'm going to go in there. But if you are tired or have other shit going on and it's like becomes a chore, that's the worst feeling.
Right. There was one day, this is pre-sidekick when we were testing stuff out, but the sidekick wasn't like operational. So I'm just like doing stuff more manually. And I was like, we went out, we had this great night, and it was like, all right, time to go to bed. It's like, but before bed, I have to make like 60 picks. This is like, this is no
well,
good.
That's where I'm headed next. Like my next trip, I'm going to do a lot more. I'm going to enter a lot more. It's just, yeah. I'm trying to stay like somewhat sane because I'm doing like projections and stuff right now. I mean, there's just like a lot more going on. It's tough. Like Pat, like how do you get anything done? Like you're talking about like setting aside 7.5 hours, then you have to get through 60 picks, or you try to do it all throughout the day. Like either way, like it kind of consumes your whole day. Like
it can if you're not careful. But I've made 3 picks since we started the stream, and I'll continue to drip in the picks as we go. So that's one way.
That's impressive. I can't multitask like that. That's great.
So that means go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, I was gonna move us along. The out of slow draft hell. I was gonna say on Wednesday with the Badge Bros, we were kind of doing another little portfolio review, and I was kind of looking at my exposures and noticing that I feel like they're kind of segmented. Like I had all the guys I was hammering that first month or so, and now I have this second wave where guys are coming up where I'm like, oh man, I'm getting higher on JSN. I have a lot more. Stephon Diggs is one of my big risers lately. Do you guys have any players who maybe you weren't hammering early that are now really coming into focus for you?
I do. I mean, one thing I do like about being in a bunch of slow drafts is that you end up in these pockets of the draft all together, and you start to be like, I really am not taking any of this guy, and I'm taking a lot of this other guy. And should I be doing that? And should I actually adjust the rankings to account for that? This doesn't feel right. Or you start to really realize like, oh, Rashee Rice is like rising a lot. Like he's now, if you're trying to, before you could hang out in the mid to late 7th and he would come back, and that's not going to happen anymore. Like that's, so there's stuff like that you get a feel of. The one dude for me that's not necessarily someone I thought I would be getting super into, but I'm taking more Zamir White than I used to because he's available like pick 90, and the talk, Antonio Pierce is like basically like, I want to feed this dude. And he did just feed Josh Jacobs. That was like one of his key things. Maybe the offense is like good enough. I don't think it'd be great, but like they've got Adams, they've got Bowers. Like Pierce was not afraid of shootouts last year. Obviously, they went nuts against the Chargers. Like there's some upside to what the offense could do in terms of not being totally horrible. I do think they are one of the most likely offenses to be totally horrible. But I think that's somewhat baked in when you're talking about the lead running back with no real competition at pick 90. So I'm doing like, there's times where I'm like, I've got one running back and Zamir White's there. I'm like, this feels pretty nice. It's like I'm capturing a backfield potentially, mostly as a 2-down guy, but kind of like a arbitrage, Kyron, kind of vibe. I've taken a lot more of them than I thought it would.
To me, it always feels like Pacheco on a really bad offense is kind of how I think about the Zamir White click a lot of times.
Yeah, I think it's a good take. I think that's a good arbitrage concept, and I think that's a good take from Pat. White's a guy that I've taken a little bit of as well, even though he strikes me as like the best example of like the dead zone,
right?
And like the kinds of guys you used to avoid in the 4th and 5th round, where like he just had a little bit of a stretch of dominant play. It's only like 5 or 6 games, and now we're projecting him to be the lead back the next year. Except, like you said, we're paying pick 90 prices, and the payoff in best ball, we've talked about this with the dead zone before, is way different. Where maybe he doesn't have elite upside, but just elite usage is so valuable in best ball. He's not a season-long pick to me, but I'm definitely in on taking him in best ball at that price. Like,
well, the funny thing is, in season long, he probably will be a 5th or 6th round pick,
right?
For
sure.
He's gonna fade. He's super easy fade, but like he's a best ball profile. Like if a dude chugs along and can get you like 10 to 12 points a week at running back, I hate paying like a 5th round price tag for that, even in best ball. But if you're offering it to me at like between pick 85, 95, like okay. And wait, what receiver am I giving up? Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett,
right?
Like, I already have 5 of these dudes. I already have 5 receivers, maybe 6, and I'm happy. Like,
when you're outside the wide receiver window, the opportunity, like now that JSN, Rashid Rice, I did a stream with Neil Orfield yesterday, so I got to do 2 fast drafts. And I mean, the last couple episodes of Ship Chasing, I've been making this argument that I feel like JSN, Deontay Johnson, Rashid Rice, that group should be going ahead of like Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman. Like we've talked about it a couple
times. It's almost happening. I
think it's happened. Like it was happening on that stream.
Yeah.
You just said it with Rashid Rice and it's those other 2 guys as well. And it's like, man, I used to be able to the 7th round when my slows were going through the 7th round, I could rely on those guys being there until pick 80 until the later part of the 7th round. Maybe not at the 7-8 turn, but like definitely if I had the 707, you're going to get one of them. And we did not get one of them in either of our drafts last night. Like that doesn't happen. At least it didn't in the 2 BBMs I did yesterday. There were fast drafts. And
it's really Jameson and maybe Keon now is like,
right.
And occasionally one of the other guys, like occasionally Watson or JSN will fall.
Well, we got Ladd in the 7th, and I was okay with that at that point behind those 3. And I was like, all right, well, if it's going to flip, I'll take Ladd in the 7th. But to that point, like we're starting to see, I think that the delineation of the end of the wide receiver window, where now I want running backs, and Zamir White is behind that. Like Isiah Pacheco was in front of that, for example, right? Like I want the running back that I can take the bet on where the opportunity cost is not those receivers or better, right? It's
right.
It's Jameson Williams or worse, right? Like that's when I start to be like, all right, I can pass on Jameson Williams. Like I don't necessarily have to pay this price for his profile.
Right.
There's a very clear line, I think, end of the wide receiver window that's forming that at least that I'm comfortable with. But all my drafts are at the end. Pete, when you ask like guys that I'm starting to get used to or that I'm taking a lot of, I'm getting a little scared because I'm taking like almost way too much of 2 dudes at the very end of almost every draft. And one of the people on my stream this week on Wednesday made a good point that I'm missing the opportunity to take other late round picks. And it's true. But the 2 players
I'm excited for these names.
The running back that I'm taking every single time won't surprise you guys because it's the same team that I've been just talking about constantly, but it's Audric Estime. Like,
yeah,
you guys know that I love Javonte Williams. I love the Bo Nix fit. I love the high value touch potential in this backfield. And I've been about the size of Javonte Williams, like his actual weight vis-a-vis Jaleel McLaughlin and the hype around McLaughlin. And Estime is so cheap and just feels to me like the direct handcuff to Javonte due to, again, size and being able to play on 3 downs. And he like in these super flexes that I'm in that are finishing up that go 20 rounds, I'm just taking Estime every time. Like in the 20th round, like when I needed the 6th running back or something, it's just too easy. And then at running back, or it feels too easy to me for what I expect for that backfield. And then and I'm probably going to be wrong. And then at wide receiver, it's Greg Dortch, because we were talking about it last time, I think. But it's Michael Wilson and Zay Jones to me feel like they're kind of competing for snaps. Dortch feels like he has a role. I don't think he's that different than some of the slot guys that go a little higher. Like I feel like I can project him for a good number of routes out of the slot, and he earns targets. He's going to have some usable weeks. Like by the time, again, you get to the 20th round in these super flexes that I'm finishing up, but even the 18th in normal drafts, there's not a lot of receivers where I'm like, I feel really good about the routes here. Not that he's going to be an 80% route guy, because slot guys usually aren't, but I feel good about like the role. Like he's going to play he's going to play out of the slot all year.
Yeah. And I think he's better than Zay Jones, and Michael Wilson didn't show that much. So I just raised Dortch up because I was like, Dortch is someone I want more of, because it's not like he's been amazing, but when he's out there, he has been, decently impressive. And I just feel like when you look at a guy like Zay Jones, he washes out of his first contract, he goes to the Raiders, he revives his career kind of in weird circumstances where he wasn't going to play much, but then Ruggs is out, so then he's in there, and then he gets this contract from the Jaguars as they're trying to get professionals in the building, and then he gets 2 years of run there, and then he's cast aside after that, and he washes up with Arizona. We're used to Zay Jones getting playing time, but like that career is not necessarily one that then displaces a veteran who is already in a role. And I would, they've talked about Michael Wilson being like, when he's out there, we're going to expect him to help us win games, and they're not committing to him being like an every down guy. But like, I think Zay Jones most likely is probably just like a rotational backup to Michael Wilson, right?
Right. I mean, I think role-wise, I don't even know that they operate at the same like depth of target and everything. Like, I don't think they really overlap a ton, Zay and Dortch. To me, Dortch is like doesn't have a lot of competition on the current roster for what he'll probably do. And it's so interesting because I looked at his like yards per out run profile. He doesn't actually have strong yards per out run in any years of his career. He doesn't earn a lot of targets per out run. But if you go look at his game log, he has a bunch of games where he's had 9-10 targets. Like when he gets into a matchup that works for him, he seems to just compile volume.
He's a weird dude because I think he's been running routes not in the role that we want him in.
Sure.
But then he gets in the role where he's the clear slot guy and he's a stud. So
yeah,
I'm generally so we're on the clock here.
Sorry, I hopped us in the sprint. We got the 1-6 Amon-Ra here.
Yeah.
Structurally an easy pick.
Yeah, very.
I feel like Bijan should go right there too, but like it's just like structurally it's so much more comfortable to take a receiver. Like so I can't take him over Amon-Ra.
Have you guys been doing any sprints outside of stream stuff?
Nope.
I haven't.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I think these rooms are slightly less wide receiver heavy, and I'm a little scarred because just my most recent best ball breakfast was just like insane avalanche. But because the reason I think about it is because JJ and I took Bijan at like 110 and then just got buried in an avalanche. But like I think in normal rooms it's a lot easier to pull off.
It's crazy that was enough. There was no receivers for you even with just one detour in the first round.
No, I can bear. I've tried to like block it out of my memory. It was a really awful experience.
I mean, because if you're at the 10, like think about that. Like so 3-4 you can get receivers, but by 5-6 it's probably already pretty dusty, and 7-8 you're definitely not getting it.
7-8 it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
Oh, it was over. We took Tyler Lockett like 26 picks ahead of ADP.
Right. We took Tyler Lockett at the 5-6 probably.
Oh god.
Tyler Lockett is your wide receiver 4, 25 picks ahead of ADP is how you start hating the draft. No.
Oh man. Because if
you got Keon Coleman at the 603. It's like, did you have Allen? No.
We
That was
did
the
Brian
last guy?
Top. We didn't capitulate like in the 5th. We took Anthony Richardson and I was just like, I can't.
Okay.
And then we grabbed Brian Thomas coming back because we had to get somebody.
Did you get like AD at
Lockett
least?
was 7-8.
No, we got Downs. So we got the double stack with Downs and Pittman.
You get buried when you're out of turn. I mean, that's when the avalanche gets
Yeah.
so gross, man. You can get so buried.
Well, maybe I lied because Chris Olave and Nico just went here to our friend line of scrimmage at 12:13. But yeah, I have been in quote unquote normal rooms, been trying to mix it up. Been taking a little bit more Derrick Henry, a little bit more Isaiah Pacheco, just trying to build around some of those players that I had a pretty big hole in my portfolio that I don't want to be fully underexposed to. Especially if the thesis is those guys are going to rise when casuals start drafting. It's like kind of like the lad stuff where it's like I packed a lot of lad shares early, so I wasn't quite as out when he got higher. I'm kind of thinking like I'm gonna have like no Pacheco and Henry if I'm not grabbing a little bit of them now.
But it is interesting where like I think depending on how much they rise, but it's possible that I actually am more interested in some of these running backs. It's more like Pacheco probably than Henry, but like if I know I can get a receiver in the late 7th, right, then I would be more open to taking Pacheco even in the early 4th. But it's like the prices on everyone are going to change. So if the running backs are more expensive, then like Jonathan Taylor is probably someone that's going to be a lot more comfortable for me to click in August because I'm going to feel much better about my receiver depth.
It's an interesting point too. If a lot of these guys move up, it means then the wide receivers will come down, which will make it less avalanchy, which will make it a little more palatable to keep picking your spots and grabbing these guys, even at a slightly elevated cost, because the macro dynamics will be working in your favor.
Exactly.
We're on the clock here. Taylor, Waddle, Ayuk, Barkley, Debo by ADP. I should mention these ADPs are slightly different from BBM because it's a different ID and format. What do you guys like?
Ayuk or Waddle, I think.
Gretch?
I was going to say probably Taylor or Waddle. I couldn't do Ayuk in a sprint, I don't think. My issues with the target stuff. I mean, yeah, I know there's weekly spike ceiling. So the one thing for the sprint for me that's different is you're looking for a guy that can dominate over 3 weeks. Like what we know from the high stakes stuff and the sprints that are there is how guys can really separate as the guy you need over 3 weeks. Like when they have 2 monster games, it's less about the 1 game spike.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thesis for Ayuk, when I keep talking about how he only had 105 targets last year, I do understand from you need to advance each week. He could be the guy you need for 1 week. It's much harder for me to see him pay off the week 2 price in a spike week sense over 3 weeks, like where he's I want to take a swing on somebody in the second round that I think can separate over 3 weeks with like elite volume. I mean, he could have 2 spike weeks and then not kill you with the down week because you cover it. There's outs, but like Waddle to me with the contingent upside stuff we talked about, if Tyreek Hill's not in those games, Waddle can be the wide receiver 1 over 3 weeks and separate, right? Like that's what happens in the sprint stuff in the main event. You know, remember like a few years back when it was. I always reference this one example, but it was the Kirk Cousins, Jordan Reed, Washington stack where like Kirk Cousins was a QB1 by a lot and Jordan Reed was a tight end 1 by a lot. And you just were not winning if you didn't have both of those guys in high stakes. There was another year where it was Russ Wilson and Doug Baldwin, where Doug Baldwin caught like 7 or 8 touchdowns in 3 games. I think it was 8 TDs in 3 games. Wow. And it was like, you had to have that little stack. And I also think in the sprint, you probably don't want to overstack teams because the idea of like it could be this guy this week, this guy this week, this guy this week makes more sense when it's week. But when it's the 3 combined, you want that like one guy, like the Doug Baldwin example.
Yeah.
I mean, you're competing against 3,700 teams. Like you're still going to have to hit the nuts. In this, the pod dynamics actually, yes, it's more volatile, but you don't have to be near as perfect to get to the playoffs in the pod. You just need Amari Cooper's 50 points in that week and you're good.
Both Achane and Kyron go off there.
Achane, Kyron, we're looking at DJ Moore, Laporta, Metcalf, Cup, Tank. What do you guys like?
I'll leave this for you guys.
Probably Metcalf or Cup.
I haven't done much.
Oh, what were you saying?
No, go ahead, Gretch.
I would go Cup. I don't love Metcalf at all. We're going to say you haven't done much Metcalf?
I haven't done much Metcalf. Not a ton of Cup lately either. I'm fine with either.
So the more that I know I haven't given strong answers to the question about Ryan Grubb's offense, and I keep getting the UW thing. The more I think about that, the more that I do worry about the Metcalf price. And I know Sean's not in love with it. He thinks that's like the one wrong way to play Seattle's offense. The thing that Seattle did was they were super not Seattle. The Huskies did with Ryan Grubb and that offense was they were super multiple. I've talked about this before. A lot of motion, a lot of misdirection, a lot of different types of formations. But what that ultimately I think means is you don't get like one elite target share. You get a spread off. Like the offense is the ball is going to go different directions. There's going to be like play designs that are misdirection, and it's the first read is like the tight end sometimes, right? And sometimes it's maybe the secondary receiver, third receiver. I would be hesitant and Metcalf didn't even have like that dominant of a target share last year. I think he could really fit in an offense that will probably be more vertical and pass downfield more. I don't understand the gap, I guess, between him and JSN as a year 2 guy, and especially Lockett. If you're going to play one of the vets in this offense, just play Lockett, Like, I think it's going to be fairly balanced with the targets between the big three. And even Fant. I saw you in your newsletter, Pete, wrote about Fant today as well as a guy. Like, I want to play Seattle's passing game through those guys, not through a third-round price on their number one or their expected number one.
I could see it, working out that way, but I think it's also like, if we're betting on this offense to be a lot better and more creative, and DK Metcalf is a guy who's been kind of glued to one side of the field doing the same thing over and over in like, kind of almost like a Michael Gallup level of like, lack of creativity, right? Like Mike Williams, right? Like what if instead of having a Mike Williams role, he's unlocked and he can do stuff more like AJ Brown. He's actually getting moved around. I mean, that's really exciting to me. Like, and Metcalf has been really good every single year of his career. His career low in yards per hour is 1.83. That came as a rookie. He was at 2.04 last year. Said multiple years over 2. The other 2 years were 1.93, 1.94. Like, just consistency. He's really good. He's not like one of the very, very best wide receivers in the league, but he's pretty good. So I don't want to be saying I'm going to play this offense a number of other ways and not through Metcalf. Because if the offense takes a step forward, they're more creative, they're more productive through the air. The most likely thing is that the very best player would eat is the way that would be like my baseline expectation. So I'm not like hammering Metcalf, but I guess I'm kind of dabbling with the various ways this all could go, including doing stuff. I've used bringbacks on the Chicago stuff as well. So
yeah, I should probably get some Metcalf. I mean, I think that's a really good take. It's just there's a big gap in their pricing, right? Like, so if the offense hits the way you said, that would be my default, but it's already kind of priced in when he's going in the middle of the third, and it's not priced into Lockett and JSN and Fant, who I think all can really come above their ADP if the offense hits in that way, right? Like, there's more room for those guys.
Yeah.
The pricing is so certain that it's Metcalf that it's hard for me to. I agree. I should get some Metcalf. That's a good take. I'm like full fading him and probably should not be doing that.
All right. ADP, Pittman, Henry are slight fallers. Higgins at ADP. And then we start to get into the tight ends. Amari. What do you guys like?
This is actually where I take some Pittman.
That's funny because Pittman's another one that I'm like,
I don't really ever take Pittman.
I was going to float Henry. You guys want to do a Henry share at 4.7?
Sure.
Higgins would be my wide receiver, but Henry seems like in a sprint in a 3-week thing, like why not? Right? He could be the dude. He could score 6 touchdowns in 3 games, and you're like,
be the dude.
Yeah. I think just my small 2 cents on your guys is the Metcalf thing, because it's like I buy both the arguments to like Gretch. If all things were equal, like with the offense of just being like, I want to bet on the younger guy, the second year breakout, and what that could mean for their trajectory. But then you layer in such a massive system change and thinking like, if everything clicks, that's where I'm like, holy cow, DK Metcalf's a top 12 wide receiver. And it doesn't even necessarily come at the expense of JSN or those other ancillary pieces hitting, but you're like, this was just an offense I wanted to stack up every piece.
Yeah, I mean, Metcalf, it might seem expensive because he's going in the, early to mid third, but he is wide receiver 20 at least in our ranks. Hang on, let me see. By ADP, he's wide receiver 20. So
I was gonna say maybe later.
yeah, I know we're not especially high. We're
this
dead even
draft
with ADP.
I mean, he had to have been later than wide receiver 20. I feel like in this draft.
So I mean, like that's low. That's not. We're not actually asking for a ton. You know, it's like be productive, be good, and have the offense take a step forward. So I'm at 5% Metcalf. I'm at 5% JSN, and I've made an effort to get up on J because I was too low on JSN earlier. So I'm trying to get. I would probably like to be like slightly underweight on both players. Is where I think I want to end up.
The chat just brought up the 8-hole. I mean, I'm trying to think through it, but like in a sprint format, you need one of Allen or Mahomes to be there's just no way, right? There's no way this is right in a sprint.
Yeah, the team started Puka, then went Allen at pick 17, then went Kelsey at 32, then Mahomes at 41. It's really the Allen pick that is just the
doesn't fit if you're going to go Kelsey Mahomes, which is fine. You can go Kelsey Mahomes, but
and you're
I would say this
guaranteed
team
Kelsey
is essentially
Mahomes
dead
at those prices.
It's dead in a sprint, right? Because
Yeah.
I think you could make an argument that like two elite QBs could ping pong in the weekly thing, but in a sprint, you at these prices, you need the QB to separate as the QB1. You need Josh Allen to separate. And
it's too many other teams. There's too many other teams that would have like
the other
you would need such a strange outcome. You would need like Josh Allen to go absolutely nuts and then dud, and then Mahomes to go absolutely nuts in that week, and then have the opposite thing happen again or the same thing happen. Like it's not. I don't know. It's a very, very, very.
And that scenario could happen with different QBs. It doesn't have to be elite QBs for that to happen.
Right.
If you're just talking about one game, like it's weird. Maybe Reed or Allen.
Yeah, I was gonna say a wide receiver
one
here.
One of those two guys I like.
Do you guys have a preference? I'm looking at if we have any correlation stuff. I mean, Keenan's 17 versus Seattle and Amon-Ra. We don't have any Seattle yet.
We didn't do Mecca.
We were talking about Seattle. We could do Keenan though.
But yeah, we got the Amon-Ra there. And there's a lot of ways to play Seattle. I do think, I mean, for the sprint as well, and it's not like novel, but those week 16 and week 15 buys stacks are not going to be. They're going to be a little bit more unique because people are going to still have the week 17 stuff in their head.
Right. It's so true. You think of the week 17 one, it just comes to mind so much more easily.
That's what I like with the. I had Brick add to the caddy, so now in parentheses it'll show NEC. So like mix in, it's going to flag the Baltimore and the Miami. So it's going to say 2, which is for the sprint is specifically really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Be like, let me get those extras.
That's very nice.
All right. So the team so far, we got Derrick Henry at running back, and then wide receiver Amon-Ra, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen. We missed out because of that kind of early run.
Okay. So this dude, he's just having a little laugh
is he
here.
throwing this, or does he think the guy who started with Mahomes and Allen just took CJ Stroud too? So
it's a $50 draft. It's a weird one to
just punt into the sun.
Yeah.
It is like, I always say that sometimes I wish I could do like just a quick interview, just like see this person right now, ask him a few quick questions. Like, and it wouldn't even be condescending. It would just be like, do you know what contest you're in? Like, you know,
yeah, that's not condescending at all. Do you know what contest you're in?
I think it's probably a fair question. Do you know the scoring settings? Do you know the lineup settings? All right, maybe it's a little condescending.
I mean, he has gone. What was his first pick?
Puka,
Allen, Kelsey, Mahomes, Stroud. He thinks he might think he's into Superflex. He might.
I mean, the guy at 11's not a badge and started receiver, and then went ETN, Pacheco, Rashad White. There's some different approaches in this draft that is kind of nice. Like if you're looking for something that's different, I think the lower price points are all of the high volume drafters. It feels like all the time.
The lower price points are often harder than the higher.
Yeah, it seems like you get a little variance here
because you're getting more volume from good drafters.
Yeah, or at least drafters that do what we do. I mean, not to 8 is. But like 11 might be right. I'll just give him like some benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
Yeah, hopefully I need them to land this plane so this draft doesn't get thrown out. The last I do not want to see any purple.
If this
No
is the
I want to
quarterback
see
pick.
Derek Carr right here. That's what I'm rooting for.
No.
Come on, give us
Take
Derek
take
Carr.
Lad McConkey.
I want to see Derek Carr right here.
Oh man. Let's see
Come
what
on.
he's looking at right now. He's like, man, fuck, Burrow.
Burrow shouldn't be here. Just shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Quarterback's the
Take
most
Mixon.
important position in football.
Take Mixon. You need him. He might
Derek
just
Carr,
be
baby, come on.
autoing. I think that. Okay.
that
Oh,
was the
double
second
tight end.
tight
Who
end.
was it?
Dude, I feel so bullied at the onesies right now.
Wow.
That was his second tight end.
Yeah, this is it's a little sketchy to be honest.
This guy sees the kind of engagement hit him with the grid he's getting with his radical onesie strategy and saying, I need in on that.
So we don't
Big
get
Ray.
an elite tight end here. Pitts already went.
Yeah, we got.
He
boxed
did,
out.
yeah.
We got boxed out.
All right, there goes Lad. So we are on the clock. I'm still down to go receiver here. BT, Hopkins, Addison, Rice.
Rice is good.
Yeah,
He won't
Rice
come
is
back.
rising into this range, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's grab him. He feels like a nice wide receiver 5 here with Amon-Ra, Waddle, Cup, and Keenan.
Yeah, that's
And
a
has-
very nice one.
Has the stack with somebody, right? Who did?
With Henry in week
Okay.
Ooh,
yeah.
that's nice.
Wait,
Or sorry, I was mixing that up. I was seeing the Houston on Henry. No,
Yeah,
he has we don't have any stacks with him yet.
oh, interesting.
The
I
one
saw
player
something. Oh, it's
might have
that
been the bye
Houston
week.
now. We need a Texan because Houston has Miami, KC, and Henry. All 3 games. We'd get a little bring back on all 3 if we got a Texan. Dalton Schultz maybe is a Q guy with no tight end.
Dalton
All right,
Schultz.
I like that.
Yeah, Damian Pierce. If we want to.
Damian Pierce late. It was Mixon who we were talking about having 2. Also had KC.
Oh,
That got
yes.
me thinking about the KC thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rice, I think pairs well too. Like if you are saying, okay, maybe Cup and Keenan aren't fire for the full 17, maybe a little age cliff somewhere in there, then you get the Rashi Rice swooping in for 15.
Ooh,
through
chat
17.
just bye week broed us. We have 3 receivers on week 6 bye already.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna throw out this draft, guys. They're gonna throw it out.
I do think it's
Wait,
like not
that guy-
ideal, but it's not a
Oh, no.
in this format. It's not a huge thing at this point.
Yeah, we're okay. We just got to get to the sprint.
The other thing is
idea, but-
if Rashi Rice gets the suspension, like how you get the 6-game suspension, he was going to miss that anyways.
also he's going to miss games where all of our other receivers are on bye, which is
Yeah.
You'd like to pair him with
But
some late buys.
Let me spin zone this and say the buy was already
I
happening.
think that makes
for
it
him.
worse.
The 5, 6, 6, 7 with Rasheed.
Not
Rice.
only will he not be there week 6, he will also not be there for our other early buys.
all of our other buys. So really, we just paired buys with everyone. Is what we're saying.
Bye week chasing.
Little did you know.
Yeah, so we're up to, we got our 1 running back, Henry. We got our 5 wide receivers. As far as tight ends, Ingram is here. There are a couple more wide receivers. Watson goes, so you're looking at Keon Coleman. Otherwise, the running backs, Kamara, Aaron Jones, Najee, Ramondre. How do you guys think we play this?
We could go Ramondre.
I'm pretty open.
I'm
Aaron
fine with any of
Jones
the
has a
running backs.
little some correlation stuff there. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, although he has the week 6 bye. I mean, Najee has the double correlation with Baltimore and KC.
Okay.
I'm fine with any of these running backs.
Let's just not do the week 6 bye with
Okay.
Jones. I'll do the Najee here.
I mean, Derrick Henry and Najee Harris. We know both.
High T.
These guys are big, physical running backs.
Gonna get so many low value touches. You're not gonna.
We're gonna get so many low value touches. Can you imagine how many times they're gonna get handoffs up the middle?
2nd and 2 on his own 35. Oh yeah.
0.4 points.
We're gonna get that fucking first down.
I feel like that is such a theme in my drafts this year. Is just like, very 0 RB like picks through 7 or 8 rounds, and then taking all the guys that we used to never draft in rounds 8, 9, 10.
It is. It's like they're finally priced at a level where like no one else is even available. It might as well be the 18th round for receivers. So he was like, okay, I'll take all these guys now.
It is crazy that like 3 years ago we were trying to tell people to draft this way. And now there's all these people that like, I feel like it's, the young contingent is so into it that we're the boomers now. We have to now take the value that like Leone a couple years ago was like, yeah, dude, you guys jumped the shark on Josh Jacobs. We're now like, yeah, I mean, we've jumped the shark on Najee Harris. Yeah, we've jumped the shark on Derrick Henry. Like we're just eating all that.
Yeah, but I mean, it is like, it's so different because I was saying this on Legendary Sickos, we had Leone on, and it's like when we use the sell for zero running back used to be, listen, I know it's going to feel uncomfortable to take Trey Benson in round 7 as your RB1, but it'll work out. Trust me, contingency value, chaos, right? But now it's like, we're not even talking about that stuff anymore. It's like, take Ramondre Stevenson, the starter for the Patriots who just got a new contract. Take Najee Harris, who's going to get loaded up with carries. Take,
all guys who we
make 5 more rounds and take Devin Singletary, who got signed to his old coach and has like no competition, and you can take him in the 12th. Like
it's not until you get to like Blake Corum and Ty Chandler. I mean, these are like, you're in the 140s for some of these guys, right? Like Tyler Algier in the 160s, I think still. Like that's the zero running back candidates that we used to take. Like these were our RB2s. These are RB3s, This is like your RB5 now.
True. It's very true.
All right, we're about to pick at 8-7. Got those 2 running backs, 5 wide receivers. We'll see what Chad Candles does here. Doesn't seem like we need to do any of these quarterbacks. Maybe could discuss Caleb Williams on the wrap.
Tua, Love, Stafford, all are available. Caleb Williams is coming up soon, but
yep.
I don't think we have to push QB.
We could do Brock if we wanted a little tight end upside.
I think it's Brock
late
or
season.
like
I was gonna do the Zamir White
take
that Pat was floating earlier, but he goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Brock Bowers a lot here.
Let's get the tight end upside that you're talking
let's
about.
do it.
Especially with over 3 weeks. Like I don't think you want to just be fully punting tight end.
Yeah.
And late season,
that's
like
scary
back weighted. I mean,
yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, I think we talked about that the first time we did the sprint draft because we were trying to think through the tight end dynamics. And obviously the spike week is massive for the pod dynamics, but it's also massive because if the average tight end score is 7.5 points and then the one guy drops 25, it's like, holy shit, trying to catch up with that is going to be really hard.
Yeah, I mean, last year, I think this is off the top of my head, but I believe 3 of the top 5 teams in BBM had Laporta in their starting lineup, and 4 of the 5 teams had him on the roster. Because Fareed's team didn't use his score; he had Jawan Jennings, but he did have Laporta to help him get there. So that's just with the guy. Now he's a late round guy; you didn't have to spend any capital on him, but you get the tight end who didn't really do that much in week 17, still being on 4 of the 5 teams. He would have been on 5 of the 5 teams in this format, I think. Like it would have just been extremely, extremely difficult to get there without Laporta. So if there's a tight end who goes off, even if he's expensive, like, Mark Andrews would have been on the winning team the year Liam won in this format. Like,
100%.
He just put up too many points in week 15 and 16 not to be.
Yep. Yeah, I like getting Brock there. Also kind of a weird quirk of this draft. I'm not sure if it was because of the different ADP, but Njoku went ahead of actually both Ingram and Bowers in this one, which helped push him down to us. I guess now the question...
we already have Henry and Harris. So like this is the range where I'm usually taking a lot of running backs, but like I don't feel the pressure at running back right now. It's like...
Yeah. Lots of quarterbacks sliding. Kyler and Love both still on the board. And then we hit Jaden and Caleb. It always feels gross. Like Caleb's obviously our correlated piece, but then you're like, man, taking him ahead of like Kyler, Love, Daniels on the board sucks.
Yeah. It does, but the stack is really important.
Yes.
But we could it could be an argument to push it because we do have a Detroit, Miami, and LAR receiver there that those quarterbacks are still on the board as well.
So, yeah, I'll make a case for guys. So, James Conner, like he's going behind Trey Benson in ADP here or not?
No, he just
seems
slightly ahead.
Okay. He seems pretty nice to me as an RB3.
Yeah, let's do it. Obviously,
let's take another of the types
just
of
a
running
clear-cut starting running back for a decent team.
another jump the shark running back.
Yeah, at pick 102. Would you like the Cardinals starter who they're like, James Conner's our guy and we're going to ride him all year? Would you like him at 102? He's available.
Seems nice.
And I do think that's a good tiebreaker. I do that tiebreaker a lot. Like if I have 3 to 4 options behind, then push the guy at quarterback, see if you can get the deal on him. If you get him, great. If not, you still
although
got
Kyler
options.
Love went right before us and Daniels went right behind us.
But we have other stacks set up, I think is the other big thing.
Yeah.
Well, and the drafter out of the 8 holes already got 3 QBs, so we don't have to worry about him. And this is stupid.
What has he done? Can we check in on him?
He's back on track. We're not getting this draft thrown out, which is nice. Went Kamara, Jameson, and Samuel after his quarterback tight end blitzkrieg.
It's crazy that in a room where he took 3 quarterbacks in the first 5 rounds, there was a bunch of QB value. Everyone was like, all right, fine. Like, if you're going to take a bunch of early QBs, we're just going to not draft quarterbacks.
Jameson Williams is your wide receiver 1.
No, Puka. Come on.
Oh, Puka. Okay.
Jameson Williams is the perfect wide receiver 2.
Everyone is. Yeah, he's the wide receiver 2 on the Lions.
Right.
He can be your wide receiver 2 in fantasy. He's good enough for Dan Campbell. He's good enough for us.
Yeah, Caleb goes to the Rome and DeAndre Swift drafter. Also, the DJ Moore drafter, Chad, was in front of us too, so I don't think he was going to get back to us at 115 regardless.
I like the pocket passers in the sprint. I was just talking about the Russ and Kirk Cousins thing, and this is not a take I've really thought through, but the idea of like pocket passers need to spike TD rates, and there are years that we have those examples where guys have spiked it over 3 weeks. It seems like you could actually, like, as a pocket passer, separate more than you can in 1 week over 3 weeks. If you really spike your TD rate, if you throw for 9 touchdowns, 3 straight 3 TD games, I don't know.
Well, Goff had a hell of a run for a couple weeks, and
if you do it week after week after week, you could actually differentiate.
We also, because we're only at 5 wide receivers, we're obviously going to have some bullets to build out some backdoor stacks as well. So even if we miss out on one of our 3, I think we're firmly in play for a third stack. The question here, I think, is going to get interesting with our quarterback cap or running back capital, because I think you start to make the case. You could, depending on who we get here, could easily be a 4 running back build if we wanted to like shut it down with a Henry, Najee, Connor, and an upside swing type pick. We're also looking at some of these wide receivers by ADP: Shakir, Palmer, Wicks. Goddard is the tight end available.
Where's Schultz at tight end?
Oh yeah, good call.
He'll be a little bit later, right?
Okay.
Yeah, 134 ADP. So we could check on him at 126.
Okay.
Like either Brown or Spears give you chances, I think, to justify a 4 running back build here.
I would be Spears there.
I'm Brown.
Also gives you the Levis out too, potentially.
Who do you like more, Pete? I said I'm Brown. He said he's Spears.
I've been taking Spears just because of ADP. I mean, Brown's like my most drafted guy, so I'm not out on him by any means. But yeah, I normally just take the ADP and see if you can get him back.
Let's do it.
We didn't have any other correlate. I guess the Chase had. Well, now he has Tennessee, but we didn't have any correlation.
Yeah. I was trying to look at the buys too, and we didn't have a buy consideration there either.
Look at all these quarterbacks.
So here's the team. Yeah, definitely smart to push the quarterbacks. So no quarterbacks. We got Henry, Najee, James Conner, and we finally gave the 0 RB bros a fun click in Tajay Spears. Wide receivers: Amon-Ra, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Rashee Rice, and then Brock Bowers.
I love that receiver room, and then we're just going to have some flyers. You hope you catch one spike week, but it's the idea is those 5 guys can really dominate targets over a 3-week stretch. All of those guys could have such massive target volume week after week, right? Like including Rashee Rice, who's our 5. Waddle, particularly if Tyreek were to miss time, has that kind of contingent upside. Kupp, Allen, and Amon-Ra are guys that could just be 3 straight double-digit target games in a row, which they've done in their career multiple times.
Yep.
It's a fun, and then we're gonna have bullets coming up from the back that could be spike week guys.
Yeah, I like the build a lot because we just unlocked a roster spot if we want it, right? For that RB5 we don't need now. So if we want to, use that on a third quarterback, use that on a wide receiver that maybe we don't strictly need, but helps us unlock a stack, that type of stuff. So we're also like, if we do go tight end here soon, we could potentially stop at 2 tight ends if we want. So we're
right.
The build that gives us a lot of flexibility.
It gives us a lot of flexibility, and because of that, I'm kind of thinking a late RB5 wouldn't be the end of the world because our top 3 guys are a little fragile.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's a luxury pick. I like.
Probably should be like a rookie, like a real nice upside swing.
Yeah.
Late season upside. Yep.
So one thing we should think through, and I'm actually curious. Okay, this drafter didn't do it. So the Miami stuff is all behind us on this side of the board. The Tyreek drafter, the Achane. So we should definitely push Tua. The question is, if we want 2 quarterbacks here, then we probably need to take Goff now. He's past ADP, or if we want to do the Schultz, it's either 2 quarterbacks or 1 quarterback and Schultz if we're trying to play that over these next few picks.
I think I like Goff. It's like a direct bet on Amon-Ra being the dude.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can let Schultz go. I mean, Schultz has all the stack stuff. We're not going to be able to get him if we go 2 on the way back.
Yeah, there's a small chance he falls.
Good direct bet. Yeah. Well, he would have to fall all the way to 13 because we would want to take. Well, I guess if Tua went, then we might be just willing.
Right. Then
yeah.
Schultz is fun, but it's a more complicated bet. You're saying that these game environments are awesome, and he's the bring back, and Goff is just Amon-Ra. If our first round pick hits, Goff, we're going to use it a couple times.
Yeah. We want Amon-Ra to have 35 targets through those 3 games and just be going off. And so Goff's a good guy to have. Amon-Ra catches for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns in 3 games. We want the quarterback throwing all of that.
I do love how I feel like that happens to be on a decent amount of streams where you just end up making the most obvious correlation point again. You're like, well, they're one's thrown to the other, and so if they're having plays, then it'll be good for both of them.
The touchdown actually counts twice because you get the quarterback and the wide receiver.
I'd go so far as to call it a double dip.
Is the double dip
only scores once? They only get 7 on their board.
It is only 1 actual touchdown, but it counts twice.
But I think the double dip might actually.
Is it back? The new kickoff rule restoring the double dip to its original glory would be amazing.
Those guys need to fire up the DFS Edge pod again, just so Peter Jennings can say double dip 19 times a show.
Who's going to be the double dip king? Who's
Cordell Patterson?
Well, but he's a single dip. I hope. I hope he's just a single.
No, the double dip is Wait, don't you?
You need him to do well in offense too. You want him to.
Yeah, but we're talking about different double dips. I was thinking of the old school DFS sets.
Well, wasn't? Oh, but you're right. But the old school DFS sense is that you would play the Steelers D and Patterson, but Patterson, you would generally prefer that he also be involved in the offense, which maybe
you want the best ball double dip, which is he's the running back and the punt returner who scores a touchdown.
Right.
Yeah.
That used to be Tyler Lockett, Rupesh knows.
That used to be Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. Maybe Roma Dunze. He had a kick return TD in college, or a punt return TD, although he didn't have a lot of punt return volume. He wasn't
Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy back there.
Did he return a lot in college?
I don't know. He's just fast, so I said him.
Man, I want to do more of these sprint drafts. So, this drafter took Aaron Rodgers to stack up with Garrett Wilson, which not that that's egregious, but just 131. I haven't seen Rodgers go that early in a draft in a long time. What is his ADP? 159. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Had a ton of punt returns in college. There you go.
Okay, so I thought he did, but I wasn't. Yeah.
He had 40
Good.
punt returns. Yeah, 22
All right.
last year, 15 the year before, a bunch. Yeah.
Let's go. Double dip.
So yeah, it looks like still on the board is both Tua and Schultz. I still think
But Dunze had 3 punt returns and ran one back for a TD.
Hell yeah. Tyrone Tracy, he could be a double dip guy.
There you go.
Starting running back for the Giants down the stretch and kick returning.
yeah,
My God.
that'd be a good take to float. To win BBM, you're going to need a guy who scores a punt return touchdown.
Will be more the kick return because that's the one that's changed.
No,
Oh,
come
Tua
on,
goes.
dude. This quarterback hoarding thing was all fun and games until you took Tua as your QB4. I think he is just autoing off the top of the queue and doesn't
Off of
have.
what?
That was his 4th QB. Oh my God.
But yeah,
I guess-
he doesn't have positional limits. And look at the. I mean, the first few weren't ADP values, and now they have been.
But you took
I don't
Allen
know.
in the second, so it can't be.
Do you guys
These are
want to get our
Superflex
Schultz here?
rankings loaded in.
I
Yeah,
think we
I
got
think
it.
Schultz. Schultz is a good fallback.
Because it makes it a potential 2 tight end build too. And
Right.
And
with the
we're gonna
sprint aspect of it, to have it bring back all 3 games is nice.
Yeah, so and now we'll need to start thinking about building out second, potentially third stack. Like if we somehow miss out on Stafford,
Stafford's the.
this is probably a 3 quarterback build.
I think it's been, but that's okay. 3 stacks quarterbacks for a format like this is pretty nice. Plus, we
Yeah.
already.
Pat's already
you know-
thinking about Drake May so much on this team.
I mean, Jalen Polk's. I would have floated him if not for Schultz. This guy taking Freiermuth should have sniped us on Schultz, so I could have floated Polk. You asshole.
Do you know what we need to ask Leone to do? It would be fun because you know how he resimmed the week 17 finals, but with this year's payout structure for BBM. It'd be fun to have him like sim a chunk of playoff teams, but over a sprint style. So not pod. I don't know if he would be able to do that. It would just be interesting to see like what type of teams and builds had higher expected value in a sprint versus a single week pod.
Yeah, I haven't had the time or capability, frankly, to do it. But obviously you would just want to sim it, but like it would just be interesting to know like who would have won last year of the teams that advanced to the playoffs. Like who would have won?
The best 3-week team, yeah.
The best 3-week team, and then like the year, like because you could go back and look at all the previous years and just see like what teams would have been top 5 or whatever.
Yeah. And then, man, just don't associate usernames with it. Can you see something as painful as just having your team at the top and you got bounced by like one fucking Amari Cooper catch? God.
That is rough, but honestly, seeing it not be the team, seeing it like no team name and going, it looks familiar, and then digging through your old teams and then realizing it is your team.
Do you guys think like in this room and this guy just like autoing stuff, we should just lock up Stafford and not risk it?
Well, he can't take Stafford, I think, right? He's locked out positional limits wise. Other people might do weird things because they got sniped on.
He's the Puka drafter.
He's the Puka drafter. Yeah.
Did the Kyron Williams drafter also take Blake Corum? That's this guy right here. Yeah, this guy took Kyron.
Yeah, you're right.
Corum.
I actually think we should push Stafford because he can't take 5 quarterbacks.
But
this
for
feels
what?
like my stress test with Tim Patrick.
Right.
He can't take.
For what? For what reason? Yeah, I don't really see any reason to do it.
Jalen Wright, maybe.
Wright would be like the last running back, and just if you wanted to do a little bit more Miami correlation for.
But we have the.
Yeah, I think Stafford. We're just getting. We're just getting.
Let's do it because it just if we lost him, then we have to
bad.
set up 2 backdoor stacks.
It would suck.
It would suck real bad.
Yeah, losing Tua sucked too.
It did. Yeah, because that was going to be so clean. Like it's how you play Tua. You push him when you got it blocked on that side of the board. You get him at 139. Then you get both Goff and Tua well past ADP, and sneak in essentially 2 extra picks. But
Tua as a QB4 unstacked. Of course.
And then he like snap picks Quentin Johnston. Like, did he just push the plane? I am fascinated by what is going on with Big Ray the GOAT
It
today.
would be fantastic to get to ask him some questions, like you were saying. Do you know the format? Do you know what you're doing? How inebriated are you at the current moment?
Yeah, people say they always want like the old school chat box for a draft. I want like a Zoom link where I can just ring their doorbell and be like, "Hey, can you hop on a video call right now?"
I feel like this person is not a very active drafter because they don't have a badge, right? And is extremely distracted. Maybe somebody who doesn't really care about the $50 price point, has a little money, decided to jump into a draft, but also is very distracted and is just kind of clicking buttons.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my guess.
Someone was asking about where TJ Hawkinson has gone. He is still on the board here. And let's see. I'm G-Man. Oh, yeah, you're in the one hole there. Yeah. CeeDee Lamb, Devonta, Barkley, Dalton Kincaid, Pickens, Ferguson, Deontay. Yeah, this team looks fine.
Other than the fact that you drafted Barkley, Pickens, and Ferguson, but,
Oh my God! Look at these quarterbacks. Drake May just went at 157 to our guy Charlie. He knew
you're muted.
He knew no Drake May was safe. I'm
good thing I was
glad
muted because the cry of agony. I'm glad that's not recorded on the internet forever.
Wow.
Wow, we did the right thing taking the quarterback. That would have.
What is happening with the QBs? They were all going too early in the one thing, and then they were all values for a while, like all the top in the ADP, and now they're going way ahead of ADP again. It's insane.
It's crazy. Yeah, I guess if there's
is that another timeout? That's an RB7 for that guy.
What is going on in this room? You're right.
I was thinking Jalen Wright might make it back. That guy had a 1.631 build, and he just took an RB7.
I feel comfortable saying the EV might be in the sprint rooms because people sit waiting for them to start.
Yeah.
And then I don't think they're at their computer when they fill.
It doesn't seem like it.
So
the guy in the one hole doesn't have any QBs.
Do you guys want to do like a Broncos wide receiver to set up a Knicks?
Yeah.
Where are we at on the great Franklin versus Marvin Mims? Do we have a take?
I tend to be Mims. That's the other guy that I've been taking in late in a lot of my recent drafts. But I
tend to be Franklin just because it's like he doesn't. Okay. But I don't care. I honestly don't care. I don't care.
I don't care either. I want to get more Franklin. I have a lot of Mims. So Pete, you have to choose.
I'll just take the guy who has like a 1.5 higher ADP.
Nice. Slightly more possibility that Mims comes back.
I've been trying to get both of these guys on the same team as much as possible. I just feel like you think about Pat's winning team with the two Dolphins backs before Michelle got moved, where it's like it's such a low cost, and I really feel like one of these guys is gonna hit. Yeah. And I'm willing to pay that price to find out which one.
And I actually was taking more Mims early. I'm at 14% Mims and 10% Franklin. So I've been kind of recently, I wasn't taking like any Franklin at all. And then I think one of my like blind spots, this just literally just because I didn't have much Amon-Ra and then I didn't have much Puka. I was like, I'm tired of fading guys who go like day 3, who I like the prospect profile in some ways, more so Amon-Ra than Puka. I just missed Puka, but Amon-Ra had a good prospect profile, but I was like, but he went day 3, so probably doesn't matter. And Troy Franklin, I loved pre-draft, and then he went day 3, and it's a bummer. But he's really cheap, and I want to bet on the offense. And unlike Mims, he didn't disappoint in any way yet. So, like maybe he's awesome, right? It's possible.
And
so, I'm trying to get a little more in.
So I think Mims probably plays ahead of him early in the year with all the Peyton comments. And I made that point to Siegel, and he made a point on one of our bananas that Franklin feels like the higher upside swing where like if he hits, it's in a huge way. And probably if you're setting up the back stack as well with the Franklin Knicks college connection, like you need
That's
Knicks
the other
to
part
too.
of it. It's like if Knicks is hitting and Franklin is just if Knicks is really good and Franklin like can't even get out there, that's just like I guess it's possible because it's like an Oregon system thing and he just isn't that great. He's a skinny outside wide receiver. He can't translate to the NFL. It's possible, but like Knicks having like the dude he has a connection with seems like one of the ways that he ends up having a really good rookie year.
Yeah. So I love your point Pete about taking them both if Mims goes past here, but the way the quarterbacks are going, okay.
I was like, don't say it yet.
Do we have to take Knicks right now? Was what I was gonna say.
Yeah. I don't see anything that we have to take ahead of him.
There's no reason to risk it.
Yeah. This has been a funky room. Here's our team so far. We got a 3-4-6-2. Did get up to those 3 quarterbacks: Goff, Stafford, and Bo Nix. All of them stacked up. We got our 4 running backs: Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, James Conner, and Tajay Spears. At 6 wide receivers, those first 5: Amon-Ra, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Rashee Rice. Just tacked on Troy Franklin. Tight ends: Brock Bowers and Dalton Schultz. So structurally, we're in a good place for these last 3 picks.
Mm-hmm. I think a third tight end would make sense. Just try to capture a spike week in a 3-week sprint. We don't have an true elite. Maybe Bowers functions as one, but
it's funny because I'm thinking, all right, Bo Nix, third tight end. I just did a draft with Liam over on the Deposit Kingdom channel. I've been doing this format where I kind of do a questionnaire, try to draft the perfect version of my guests, all of their favorite preferences. We ended up getting a weird spot at the end, and he talked me into a Lucas Kroll tight end bring back on our Cincinnati Giga stack. And then this is how Liam is such a Sun runner. The next morning, there's a positive blurb about Lucas Kroll being like the tight end in Denver right now.
So I love that Liam's not ahead of the game. He wasn't up on the news. He's just, look at this fucking Sun runner.
I had to Google what's a Lucas Kroll. And I found
Lucas Kroll?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Dulcich is still out.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, if we wanted that 5th running back archetype that we were talking about earlier, like a true late season hammer rookie, that goes really late.
I know what you're doing. Don't say
there is a Denver running back.
You mentioned this 5 rounds ago, and Ben's already starting the pitch. Yeah. He's already starting it.
Just saying, Audric Estime will make some sense if it happens.
I literally was like, I guess we're taking Estime, and then when we came around to the receiver, I was like, we're probably taking Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims. Let's just get on board.
Yeah, and also Ben, I think it's just a smart thing too for a portfolio standpoint, because I'm guessing you have a lot of Javonte, and I think having those 2 across your portfolio makes so much
That's
sense.
And I really want to bet on that backfield, and I really believe my McLaughlin take that like he got a lot of work in weeks 4 to 6 and then went back, and then he probably isn't actually going to play a big enough role to be super meaningful for fantasy. He could have some spike, plays, but he's not going to be
like McLaughlin. I know he's smaller and the pass blocking was a concern, but like all the stuff this offseason has been like, dude is working his fucking tail off. Like that's great. I mean, so maybe he never gets there as a pass blocker, but he seems like he's going to put in the work. So
I just feel like he's not going to get enough snaps. Like he's just not going to play enough in individual games based on the way he was used last year.
But he would play. He'd play potentially a lot more snaps if he gets the pass blocking stuff down.
Sure,
he is a passing down back. So if they trust,
and he was a really high like touch per snap guy. Like he was Tony Pollard in that regard. Old Tony Pollard with
old Tony. Yeah.
So if he gets a few more snaps and he's touching the ball a ton of his actual snaps, like sure. I mean, it's possible. Braylon Allen's another one that would fit that profile that I've been taking a little more of if something isn't right with Reese. I mean, he's rising a little right now.
He should rise. I mean, he looks pretty locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other name I'd float just for upside wide receivers, I still love McMillan in this range.
I like McMillan a lot. Let's do it.
You like that?
Yeah. I haven't been taking enough of him. I want to get a little bit more. I took a lot of him pre-draft, and I haven't been taking enough of him post-draft. He seems to go off before I really think of him, but I like it.
And again, I think just how we structured this team, and we got the Cup, the Keenan, and now tacking on some pretty wide range of outcome rookies with Franklin and McMillan for that sprint element, and seeing if we could just get a big hit from one of those guys would do wonders for this team.
Yep, that's great.
So we're up to a 3-4-7-2 build. I do feel like most picks are luxury picks at this point. Probably do agree that one of them should be a tight end. Otherwise, I think we could go 5th running back or 8th wide receiver with the last 2.
Yep.
I don't even feel like the tight end is, personally, but
it's all luxury, basically.
I don't think if this was a 3-5-8-2, I don't think that would be wrong.
I don't either.
I'm comfortable either way. If you guys want to take it, I think you're right. They both feel like luxury picks.
Yeah.
It seems like the biggest upside swing we can take is probably going to be at running back.
I mean, Tyrone Tracy's still sitting there. Like, we don't even necessarily have to get into Estime. Tracy looks like he has some bringback stuff, right?
Yes, although I think the Estime correlation would be a benefit. Like if we had the Broncos QB1, running back 1, and wide receiver 1, and that offense is a hit, like I think you're feeling pretty good about that in the sprint.
For sure. Is there any other picks that you guys like?
I mean, it's kind of surprising that Kate Otten is still here.
I was taking. He just goes. The other guy I was going to mention for wide receiver would just be Devontae Walker, since we also have the big dog.
Okay,
and
I like that one.
Kind of rookie flyer there. But you could make the same thing for Likely. Like, what do you like better, Likely or Walker for this team?
I think Walker. I struggle with the Likely bet. I'm like, so he's kind of nothing unless Andrews gets hurt. We don't.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it was a more wide receiver centric offense last year than the previous. So Tracy went.
Tracy goes.
Do you want to just take Estime and figure out the other side of it? If you guys like the Estime pick,
I'm on Walker. That's a legit high upside swing.
Let's do that.
Yeah, and I think just a better chance. I think Walker is definitely going to go in the next couple picks. Yeah. He now gets drafted in most where I think Estime, and we could.
So what I was thinking there is you kind of wanted the third tight end. So now we're either on a 5th running back or a 3rd tight end. I think we could have probably stopped at 7 receivers, but we're good.
Yeah.
We could have, to me, we had 2 luxury picks. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't think now we have to take a tight end or a running back. It's the same.
That's right. Make the best picks. And Walker was the right pick there.
Yeah, now we got 3 rookies here tacked on to this wide receiver room, and waiting
exactly how we said we wanted to play it. That's a very fun way to play.
Yeah.
This build.
And the other nice thing too, I think I do like this Brock Bowers Dalton Schultz room, because you're basically saying, like, can Schultz give us just a couple spike weeks to get this team advanced, right? And then Brock's really starting to hum down the stretch.
Yeah.
Schultz is going to run 500 plus routes, and that's a nice floor of, usability. It's not going to be a
potentially elite offense.
Yeah. There's going to be some weeks where he only gets like 3 targets, but like he's got to run at least enough routes that you feel like there's a floor of usability across the season. And then Bowers is your spike,
Yeah. He could, I mean, it's a little unfair to Dalton Schultz, but it's kind of Tyler Higbee-ish.
Yeah. There you go.
And Tyler Higbee would always have that 1 week where he scored 3 touchdowns.
You were in on him. He had 100 targets. Like, I mean, he was. And Schultz had 88 last year, in 15 games. Like, and he obviously has more competition this year, but estimated to go. He'll be in that 90 target range.
Yeah, Charlie's in the chat. He heard too many positive things about Estime, not to grab him there. That also reminds me, if you guys missed ADP chasing this week, Gretch filled in for Sam. Really good episode. Lots of talk about the Texans passing game, more so the wide receivers on that show. But I recommend checking that out if you guys haven't yet.
Oh, I did mention both Estime and Dortch on that stream as well at the very end.
It's June. Yeah, we're just saying the same thing over and over to different people, and sometimes the same people.
Right. It's like, I knew I mentioned that somewhere recently, and then you said that. I was like, oh yeah, that's where it was.
What if there was just never training camp? We just have to have these same takes just for all time.
We could do, I don't know how we feel about all the 14. We could do the Damian Pierce. I know that's not fun. More fun would be like a Will Shipley if we want to do a fun rookie running back pick.
Yeah. We could,
could also do like
Juwan
a Ja'Tavion Sanders.
Also in play to me as like a, potential late season guy. We don't need him.
Gretch, do you have any takes?
No. Juwan Johnson, I was looking at him. I was looking at those backs. Tank Bigsby I take sometimes. Who are the first backs you said? I
the
think
ones
very
I was
first one-
looking at would be CH, Shipley, Pierce just went.
Oh,
so
Pierce went.
Scratch that.
Yeah. I was thinking Pierce made some sense, but
yeah, the tight ends are kind of fun too. Like Gesicki, no overlapping bye week, and some fun correlations there with Tennessee and Denver. Jatavian Sanders with Arizona and Tampa Bay. Some kind of upside cracks at tight end. It doesn't look awful either.
I like the. I mean, we were okay with the 2 tight end build, but with Estime off, we don't have to force. I mean, unless you guys want to go to like Blake Watson or something. But I mean, I don't think we have to force a running back that doesn't necessarily fit. We could just do one of these tight ends you're mentioning.
Yeah, although the tight ends aren't that great either.
You mentioned Gesicki has 2 core.
Gesicki's interesting. Yeah, Gesicki could be interesting.
Let's do Gesicki. Couple correlations gives us a little more floor potentially, or some spike week.
Yeah.
Throughout the season, if he has a couple decent games, that'll give us floor.
Yeah. They never replace their slot receiver either, so Gesicki could be pretty decent.
Gesicki could be like an arbitrage Schultz, right? Where he's kind of like the guy who just is the beneficiary of an offense going burr and backs his way into 8 touchdowns or whatever.
Right. We could do what's the difference between because last year's what's the difference between Dalton Schultz and Hayden Hurst. Yeah. There was a big difference actually, but no, it's what's the difference between Dalton Schultz and
I mean, this team is sick. It's a big bet on some older backs being right. I mean, especially Henry and Connor older and Najee, but if those guys are right, like, what do you get when you're right? Like sometimes you have to assume you're right about some stuff. If those guys stay healthy and we get enough out of those 4 running backs, this team's sick.
Yeah.
It's in a 3-week sprint, you're going to need your running backs to be healthy.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult to, you're going to need to hit the nuts. So what's the first part of the nuts? Your running backs stay healthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, we like the way I've been saying it a lot. We've said this type of concept a ton. The way I've been saying it a lot this offseason is you can't build contingencies for everything. It's the same thing as like, you got to draft like you're right or whatever. We end up going with a 3 QB, 3 tight end build that does build in contingencies at those positions. We have the 5 really good, like potentially target earning wide receivers, and we got those 3 rookies to provide some spike week upside with it. Like the receiver build is sexy as hell. Like, I mean, we're really only saying one thing has to really be right. We don't have contingencies built in at running back, but like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I've been trying to figure out. I feel like basically every podcast that I'm on, I'm just trying to talk out loud as I figure out the strategy. But there's a way we can do 0 running back, maybe, but I think it might be hero running back. This is where I've been leaning, is that it's like you do a hyper fragile. It's like you combine the strategy. So you're combining like a lot of the elements of 0 running back. We just hammer wide receivers early, but you take 1 running back early, but then you only take 4 running backs. So it's like a hyper fragile hero running back build. Which
is what we just did.
This is an example of that. Yeah. You treat Derrick Henry as like a hero running back, but then you get enough running backs in that pocket and then you're done. And then you can still pair that with, I think you can even pair it with the elite tight end if it falls to you still. Like we had a opportunity to take another receiver at one point, right? To get to 6. So that could have been a 5th receiver plus an elite tight end potentially.
Yeah. Let me recap this whole team here for the audio listeners. 3 quarterbacks, Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Bo Nix. 4 running backs, Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, James Conner, Tajay Spears. Up to 8 wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp, Keenan Allen, Rashee Rice, Troy Franklin, Jalen McMillan, Devontae Walker. Tight ends, Brock Bowers, Dalton Schultz, Mike Gesicki. And despite the bye week bros being after us early, no overlapping buys at quarterback, running back, or tight end. And then we got away from all the week 6s at wide receiver with all different bye weeks with those other guys. So I think this shaped up pretty well.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a very fun team.
This team's awesome. I don't like to do like 4 running back builds very often. I don't feel comfortable with it because I just think all running backs are going to get hurt and ruin my teams. But this is like the best 4 running back build I could imagine. I feel really comfy about everything else. And it's like, all right, well, just stay healthy, you 4.
And I do like the profiles we did it with, right? Where it's like we take the Najee and the Connor, where it's we know this team is going to have a ton of volume. And then we're just praying that these guys don't get hurt.
And being a workhorse is a skill. Like Connor's missed a few games most years of his career, but he's a 200 touch guy every single season. Like, it's not serious injuries. Najee has already shown that he can take on a workload over a full season, multiple seasons of his career. Derrick Henry obviously is like the prime example of that. These are guys that have shown an ability to handle a lot of touches over multiple years. Like, I know you get to the thing where you're like, oh, well, age, and are they going to fall off a cliff? And that can happen too. But there's something to be said about like consistently being able to take a lot of work. Like, I feel comfortable with these guys, like with this bet on these guys. I feel more comfortable with this type of player than like you throw like a DeAndre Swift in there. He's younger, but it's like that dude like has never even had huge workloads and always gets hurt.
Yeah.
On top of that.
I completely agree. And like, that's how I'm like, okay, so we have these profiles that are basically like silent killer profiles, you know, even if you take them, like they're dead zone profiles for sure, but they're like, even if they hit, they don't do that much for you because, you know, you gave up wide receiver. You gave up the chance to find the league winner at wide receiver to get this guy. And it's just like a whatever replaceable RB2, but like, okay, now we're pricing it down so much. How do I get the value out of this? And I think it's like this, where it's like Najee, Connor, Henry, like those dudes are filling two. It's like those three dudes are filling two running back slots like every single week. And then Tyjae Spears is kind of the late season upside guy. And you're done. And it's like, if that doesn't happen, then the team's dead. And, you know, but I'm trying out a bunch of, I'm taking a lot of different types of these running backs. A guy in Discord tagged me and he's like, dude was like shocked to see me take Najee over Warren in a draft. I am doing it sometimes. I am doing it. There are spots. I think you want to get. I haven't taken enough Zach Moss. That's one I need to get a little bit.
I mean,
more
that
on.
would shock me too if I saw that.
I know.
That would
if
probably
you're,
take you.
Could you imagine being in a draft with me and seeing me click Najee?
I honestly can't imagine that.
Yeah, I've done it.
Wild.
I've not done it a lot, but I have done it. But I don't want to come away from this year and it's like, and the answer was Zach Moss, and I'm like, that's the one guy I didn't take.
Yeah,
you know, just
for sure.
Yeah,
we know that the running
painful.
backs, like so much of it is based on, you know, some fluky injuries. Like there are like bust risks and that stuff. It's less talent based. It's more like situation and circumstance can lead to huge ceilings. Like, be flatter, right? Like that's what that says to me. Be flatter.
And I'm gonna have a big stand on Warren because I think he's awesome and he's priced well. And I'm gonna have a big stand on Jonathan Brooks because, you know, you're getting that rookie breakout profile a lot cheaper because he's coming off torn ACL. But, you know, the late season upside I think is still there. But I want to be flatter in terms of what else I'm doing. I don't want to have massive stands that lock me out of all the other guys. And I don't want to go like, and in addition to that, I like Ramondre slightly more than Aaron Jones. And so I will have all Ramondre and no Jones or whatever it is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That also reminds me talking about some of the running back capital stuff. Someone tagged us in some cool work they had done. Coop FB.
Oh, this was cool. Yeah.
So he was watching our show where we did kind of a lean running back build. And then he was comparing the production in seasons prior and then their ADP the next year. And basically, you know, just visually showing how the type of backs based on the production we're getting, they're all going, you know, 30, 40 picks later than what we used to pay for them. And basically kind of backing up, you know, anecdotally what we felt in that what we just did here, where you can do these 4 and 5 running back builds with not that much running back capital spent because those builds that used to work used to be more expensive.
Right.
And so you can kind of have it both ways. And then the other fun thing about it is it feels like you have all these luxury picks at the end of the draft where you don't have to be married to like catching up structurally. You can just be like, this is the highest upside swing. This is the best correlation play.
Yes,
and let that dictate you at the end instead of being like, fuck man, I need Juwan Johnson on this roster.
So I have a team. This is halfway through. I'm in a puppy, I think. And I was out of the one hole. I got Christian McCaffrey. Then I went 5 straight receivers: Malik Neighbors, DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Then I took Kenneth Walker as my RB2. Then I got Jaden Daniels stacked with McLaurin and Brock Bowers at tight end. So I'm like, I think this build, right? Depending on what running backs I get in 10-11, I might stop at 4 running backs. You can get McCaffrey in the obviously 101, Kenneth Walker at the 701, and you could potentially be done with just 4 running backs. Like I'm trying to do. I'm still sort of experimenting, but these are like the Eric Beinfor and I talked about how like Daniels and Bowers also might be kind of a key to this type of thing because you can potentially get elites at quarterback and tight end underpriced there. It's a strange year where you could just like you can be like overpowered at every position potentially if you play these rooms right.
Yep.
So when you guys were talking about the actual like production, I had been looking at our top 3 running backs. I was on the same wavelength. Some fun facts about him. James Conner, 200 plus touches, 4 straight years, 150 plus 6 straight years. He misses a few games most years. He's about 13 games played in a lot of those. But Najee Harris, 280 plus touches all 3 years of his career so far. Right? You don't usually have to pay 8th or 9th round for a guy who starts his career with 3 280 touch seasons. Derrick Henry got hurt in 2021. We remember that. He's led the NFL in rush attempts the other 4 of the last 5 seasons. He has 300 plus touches in 4 of the last 5 seasons. I mean, these are guys that have shown a consistent ability to handle a lot of work and come back the next year and handle a lot of work.
Yep.
Yeah. If I don't have to pay for that, then, and it's unlocking, I don't know. It is self-reinforcing too, because when you can get a Najee Harris in the 8th round or whatever, like, why am I taking like ETN again? And like ETN's better than Harris. He's better for sure. But 4th round versus 8th round, like, it makes me nervous.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say about doing it is I feel like it's the next evolution of like, how do you get an edge with this style build? Because people are going to be funneled to this style of build just naturally by ADP. If you just drafted off of ADP, you'd end up with a lot of these builds. Bunch of wide receivers, elite tight end, elite quarterback, boom. Now you're starting to grab these guys. How can you kind of play with that and build better versions of those teams, spending less draft capital at running back than typical 0 RB drafters would spend there?
Exactly. And I think, Leone's shown that if you have 3 stacked quarterbacks and you're bringing them back, and I also think, the Sims and stuff don't show this as much, but because we haven't really done it. But I think like if you just game stack other games without the quarterback, like if you're building in stacks and you're just like using your extra picks to load in more stacks, whether it's bring backs on your quarterback, stacks with the quarterback, game stacks on other games, like that is how you're unlocking huge potential spike weeks all hitting your roster at the same time. And that's, I think, probably where you're gaining the most when you're like, all right, I'm not going to, instead of taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire because I feel a little bit uncertain at running back, completely unstacked in a position I probably don't even need because I actually have these like guys who are going to get like 250 carries. Then instead I'm going to bet on this game that I already bet on and grab another piece when this game goes nuts and get that guy to hit my lineup. So that's where because I have been thinking like, what is the point of what I'm doing if I only stop at 4 running backs? Like, what am I getting for it?
Yeah. And
I think adding correlated pieces is one of the best ways to do it. Rookies, Leone was arguing there's probably rookies, it gives you another late, and I agree that that's another really nice way to play it. And then attacking the onesies is probably you get that extra stacked quarterback or an extra tight end who could, help you get through a week or add to a 3-week sprint.
Yep. All right, guys. Fun draft. Hop in the sprint. I know in the Deposit Kingdom, and we have some drafters tags. I know the sprints can be a little hard to fill. You can use that roll tag if you're trying to drum up people to get in your sprint. Gretch, what's going on in the Stealing Signals neck of the woods this week?
I'm working on projections. There's some pieces that I want to write for the newsletter, but I'm kind of putting off as I get the projections under my belt. Did stream Wednesday morning. I'm gonna do Wednesdays going forward, and then usually like 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 my time, probably ish. And then possibly once another time, later in the week, but I haven't figured out if I'm going to do that this week. I'm running low on drafts right now, so it's kind of, balancing act. But yeah, Wednesday stream, spun the wheel, talked about the Packers a little bit. That's about it.
Very nice. What about you, Pat?
We're doing a rankings podcast after this, so we'll probably post it early tomorrow morning. I'm going to be jumping on with the guys talking through the best ball rankings. And yeah, if you're interested in checking out the Sidekick, head over to legendaryupside.com/sidekick. Got the dynamic rankings tool we were talking about earlier. It's why I'm not fully in slow draft hell. And then I'm going to be Sacrilegious has a piece coming out looking at week 16 versus 17 game stacking. And I haven't started writing it yet, but I am going to do a follow-up piece to my my running back article that I had earlier, looking at the early round running backs. I'm going to be looking at kind of this pocket. And I don't yet kind of have the idea fully fleshed out, which is why I keep talking about it on podcasts in the hope of getting there. But I want to do something with marrying some of these structures that we've gotten used to in different contexts and bringing them into this context and see if there's ways that we can kind of modify, what is a hero running back build in this concept? What is a hyperfragile build really now? That type of stuff. So I've been kind of experimenting with builds and trying to combine them in some more interesting ways and think outside the box in that way. But if I get there, I'll write an article about it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Your rankings pod reminded me I'm having Daniel Raz from Legendary Upside on Best Ball After Dark on Saturday. Excited to talk to him. Have really enjoyed listening to him on those pods. So that'll be fun to learn more.
He had an article on the site recently that was just the intro to the article is one of the best article intros I've read in a while. So that's all about the paywall. So check that out. Very, very fun way to kind of think about this environment. The
other things for me, doing randomizer tomorrow afternoon. No Thursday show. Didn't want to deal with the presidential debates, yada, yada. So I'm going to have Ian on for a special Friday edition. Also going to be hopping on the Fantasy Sanctuary with Emo Cowboy and Tom to draft a team. And then the only other thing I referenced on the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel, I did a draft with Liam, and it was a wild draft. I even got out of my seat and spun around at one point because of a snipe that I did not see coming. So check that out. And if you want to see the aforementioned Lucas Kroll pick, you can check that out on the Deposit Kingdom. We appreciate you guys. The ADP Chasing Bros will be back on Monday. Go buy your 4% exposure blankets. Pat's trying to get me to add 2% beach towels.
No, 1% beach towel. 1% beach towel. No, 2%. Listen, if we can't get any, if we can't move any blankets, we can't move any sheets, which the 2% was the sheets. 1% is just a beach towel that you use it as a blanket, but it doesn't cover your full body and you freeze on your buddy's couch all night. That's the 1% exposure. It's not enough, but it's something.
What I told Pat is if we can sell more than one blanket, I will start adding other threadbare pieces of
that's a challenge. That's a challenge to you, the chat. Please get us the towel. I mean, who doesn't want a 1% exposure beach towel? We just need one more.
It is kind of funny that can you imagine all these fantasy football bros trying to convince their significant others that a 4% exposure blanket belongs on the couch?
I think my store would do so much better if people weren't in, partnerships with significant others. I think that's the number one detractor for people buying my store.
Human love is the biggest issue you're facing.
Well, even normal stuff, how am I going to explain to my wife why I just bought this coaster that has a duck with a bug on it,
I know. I still need to get my value on hat.
I got to get out of here. Appreciate you, Ship Chasers. Catch us in the Discord. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.